For those of you that followed me for a while, or for those of you that haven't, I am a huge person that loves to be outdoors too. I have a lot of gardens outside, both at the main farm, my house, and during the summer I'm doing so many videos back and forth in the vegetable gardens, flower gardens, whatever it is, the pumpkin patch. And so I have a real love for plants. Now, I don't always keep a ton of plants in my house, but I do have a large storage room that I keep warm, lighted, and everything just to keep a lot of my plants alive during the winter. The few plants I do bring in as houseplants obviously need some care, and you guys have been asking about some care. So I think it's always important to know just some general houseplant care and how and when to repot or size up a plant. As a houseplant grows, this is a plumosa. I love it. It has that ferny leaf. It's in the asparagus fern family, so you get that fine ferny leaf. It's beautiful, great texture. It's really easy to grow. But sometimes I think what worries people a lot is that plants will start what? They'll start browning and getting yellow on them, even a fern like this. And you can see that really in here. And that could be a few things. One, the light could not be getting into it as well. But usually what it is some type of watering issue. And what can always be hard to explain, it can be over or under watering. With any houseplant, I think it's always important to water it well, like enough that it comes out the bottom drainage hole. All pots should have drainage holes. If they don't, they are hard to water and know how much you're watering. But if it comes out the bottom, let it come out the bottom and then let it dry out completely before the next watering. When you start seeing yellowing like this, it probably means that it could be getting it so it's becoming root bound enough that it's hard for it to even really soak up the water and it can hardly ever get enough water. So that's probably what's going on here. So one way to check is always to just pop that plant out. If it comes out really easy and you start seeing roots that are encircling and starting to go around and they're becoming really visible around the outside, it's probably a good time to size it up a size. You don't want to inundate it with too much soil. So putting it into a huge pot right away probably wouldn't be good, because then it's going to have too much soil around it. It's going to displace any of the water you do water it, which will just go to all that soil and not stay on the roots. So I always like to just size it up about one size, which doesn't mean exactly like 1 inch, 2 inches. It just means kind of go into one that roughly the old pot would kind of fit into. You don't have to be too worried about it. So like I said, I just go out and find a pot I'll have on hand. Don't always have to buy one. If you need to buy more, it's always a good excuse. I love to buy pots. I like to just buy anything that's fun and beautiful. And I like to have good quality ones that can just stay around and I use and reuse. So this is one I had ready to go. And since, like I said, I always want to have a drainage hole in them, you can see right here in the bottom, there's a large hole. When a pot doesn't have a drainage hole, the roots can be sitting in water and you don't know it because you can't see to the bottom. This way the water can escape, but you don't want it to get trapped in a way that it can't escape. So I always put a shard of an old pot. This was a beloved pot that my cats broke. It's okay, I'll get over it. But I use now the pieces in the bottom. I don't like to use rocks or something, often just because I think that can entangle the roots too. So I just like to have something that will allow the water to still get through. This is curved so the water gets underneath, still drains properly. You could also use something like some fine mesh or something that just covers it. So once you have it in here, you're gonna start putting in your soil. I just use a good quality mixed soil. I like to use an organic soil and one that does not have fertilizers and things added to it. Because just like anything else, like in cooking, whatever it is, when there are things added to it, you don't know what was added to it or how much. So it's hard then to know and diagnose a plant later on with what it needs. So just a good all-purpose. I'm gonna fill this up part way, probably more to see about how far I need to go. I'm gonna put some soil in and then I'll kind of check, because fresh soil is very soft and it will go down a little bit when you water it. You don't want to pack it in, but I just like to lightly tamp it. So then I'll just kind of take mine out and I'll check it. And what I always like to do is after I check it, I will take the roots, and that's why I do it on something like, this is just a large cookie sheet. And I do this just to kind of catch some of the extra dirt if I'm doing this inside, especially in the winter. During the summer, I'll do this obviously outside. Let the dirt go wherever, but in the winter, I do like to rough up the roots just like I would a perennial or an annual I'm planting outside in the garden. That's just gonna help them. It's just the capillary roots that are running all along the outside. They're not as important to the main structure of the plant. That's just gonna help them want to have new growth. It's gonna stimulate that new growth and help them just have some fresh new places to go from. If there's a big main root, obviously I'll leave that. And then I'll check it again. I like to be just slightly below that rim, which this is just about perfect. Before I start putting soil in around it, I'm gonna add some slow release fertilizer. You can get kind of any type you want, and it goes by the amount and the size of your pot. You put in like a tablespoon at a time depending on the size of pot you have or less. This is what I like about slow release, especially for houseplants and especially during months you're gonna be inside like this, it slowly gives fertilizer and you don't have to water it in every few weeks. Generally something during the winter, no matter what climate you're in, plants go through a period of a little bit more slower growth, a little bit more of a dormancy, so they don't need a lot of fertilizer, especially indoors. So something that's slow and even is just a great way to go, and then you don't have to worry about it. So I'm gonna start putting the soil in around the plant and slowly work it in without packing it in. Once I get done, we'll just finish up and we'll have a new plant. So I have all the dirt back in here and I'm not pushing it hard, I'm just lightly tamping it. And you can see now it's gonna have a lot more room to grow. Plumosa, you kind of have to be worried about. It has little thorns on it almost. Just telling ya, always use caution. If you don't know about your plant or if it has little thorns, put gloves on, anything. So always when I freshly plant a plant, I always wanna water it well. This goes for outside too. And what that's gonna do is one, obviously water the plant well. It's gonna have all that freshly new soil, be well moistened, but it's also going to make sure any of the air bubbles that could be down in around the roots get worked out. Air bubbles can actually be really bad on roots because if one root or a main root line has a big air bubble, it will stay there and it will dry out that root and then you can have an area that dies. So that's why it's really good to water it because that water then soaks down and helps those air bubbles work out. So it's always a really good idea to water it well. And now, like I said, I'm gonna let it dry out. I always think, you wanna put the plant where each plant needs to go. So each plant has different needs. This one likes really bright light. It likes the sun. So I have it in a west window because during the winter, that's where I get a lot of sun. And then every so often, even since it gets kind of one-sided light, I do need to turn it around. So you'll need to think about that with the other plants. It's good to keep turning them so they get kind of even light all around them. Even if it's like once a week, you just go around and do that to your plants. It's a good habit to get in. It's some quick care, it's some quick tip, but it's just a little bit of houseplant maintenance that can make all the difference sometimes and just give you more healthy plants, because who doesn't want that? So I hope this helps. Most of all, you know what helps me the most? When you guys share these videos around, and I love to see you do it because you take friends, you put them in your stories, you put them on your wall, and that helps everyone see how easy so much of this stuff can be, whether it's in the garden, in the kitchen, with your houseplants. All of it is easy. If I can do it, you can do it. We can all do it, and it will just make the world a better place and a greener place. So I hope you share it. As always, check my website, wiseguy.com, for recipes, tips, tricks, whatever it is. That's where kind of I live, so I want you to live there too. Hope you found some good, helpful tips, because I have more houseplants I need to work on, and I'm sure you do too. So I'm gonna go get working. I think you can too.